coming to the end of, I would say, a short rest at this point. If we just go to that, if you guys would like to use any hit dice, you are welcome to. But for just kind of getting Unthrall into the party, you're going to basically have the call of whatever backstory element you would like. It can be just like a recognition of it's the time, the sun rising for the first time in 3 years. There are a lot of prophetic reasons that Unthrall could be on the way here. You can know of the reghed nomads if you would like. There are going to be signs of two tribes outside of this massive crack in the glacier. And you'll see that there are still some of the elk tribe remaining. The wolf tribe has effectively been losing at this point and was kind of outside of any battle at that time. Uh, with again kind of a touch of destiny to exploring this place, you seem to be following these signs of battle and some clear, easy path ahead that is going to bring you into this same room. I think we will play it that the adventurers took shelter in that north. It's really just the northern room where the actual kobold statues are. That place stinks less than the other places. The other place where you actually originally saw the vampiric kobolds, that is a place filled with the stench of death, and basically like kind of fresh rot. Um, in particular, like some sort of magical, being that it's kind of cold and sub-zero. But that room would be a good spot for effectively to have you all meet here. As far as setting up an initial meeting, I say start off with physical descriptions of yourselves so you see what you were initially looking at and kind of see from a distance, and you can always see a little bit more about some people, about things from other things. But in general, most all of the humans, all of the humanoids, have to wear a very thick animal hide jacket, so there really is very little to see um, on initial meetings. But Valine will be kind of a giant, almost the size of like 25 feet tall, and she is going to be continually shrinking over these next few hours here. So at some point upon meeting Unthrall, she is going to be massive, the size of this cavern, this big white-haired woman. She has a tiny owl that is absolutely a normal-sized owl that would be the size of anybody's torso, and it just looks like a tiny little like feather that's floating around her shoulder, before she is eventually going to shrink down into this just normal sized little old lady. She seems to wear leathers, doesn't really have a weapon to her. You might see a dagger here and there, but there's plenty of kind of bags kind of tied around her person for quick grab at things on her belt. But other than that, if anybody would like to do kind of their first little description of their character, as you all are basically again just resting inside of that room.
Yeah, so Brannick is similarly seems to be fairly lightly armed. Couple daggers visible. Um, it's difficult to tell with the kind of the bulk of the cold weather gear, but he seems like he stands a little bit over 6 feet. Probably rather lean build. You can see kind of uh, thick, kind of black hair that is kind of escaping, flowing out of the hood. Similar situation with like a number of kind of small uh, pouches and things kind of within reach on him. Uh, Kind of backpack that seems pretty full. Outline a couple different things on it. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what you'd see first glance. Appears to be human.
Would I go last?
No, you don't have to. You are more than welcome to describe yourself.
Where do I put my token?
You should kind of just see up towards the kind of top center of the screen. There's more or less just a big open room. You can just throw yourself down there. This is still the end of like combat as far as things go. They are not necessarily in this space here. I'd say they're more than likely in this room is the room that I was saying with the cobalt statues and Velixes. I feel like you probably see yourself, but I have a token on top of you. So there we go.
All right. Undral chose to wear akin to a
Yeah, I
bearskin
can see myself.
cloak. He's got some plate, especially around the pauldrons on his shoulders. But for the most part, what you see under the bearskin cloak is this ragged, unkempt dwarven man who appears to be more grizzled, more um slightly hunched, and yeah, you just see that this is a dwarf that has no fear in his eyes. Uh, his facial hair and his hair on his head, both brown as dirt, both dirt brown. And his size, he's rather bulky and stout, bulky, stout, and very muscular. He would stand at approximately 4'7".
And Fen or Velixis, can you describe yourselves?
And then you'd see a
Uh, so for village,
Wait, one at a time. Don just started. If that sounds good, Rashad, let's go with Don real quick.
so yeah, Fen you'd see Fen humanoid, uh lithe, appears to be elvish, quite tall, almost 6 foot. Um hard to tell, but he carries a long sword at his side and doesn't appear to be wearing any armor, more like the trappings of a monk. Uh, he is a wood elf, and unlike most wood elves, his hair is kind of cut short and spiky.
Excellent. And sorry about that, Rashad. Let's get a description of Velixis.
I know you good. I think my thing cut was came in a little delayed. But for Velixis, you see what you notice first. You know she's a cobalt mage. You see her there. She has a spell book with her, and her yellow and white cloak that's over her. But what you notice, aside from the fact that she is a kobold and a mage, what you notice most and most peculiar is the many different skulls and body parts that she has collected, that she has strapped around her body. And while she may have those, she doesn't look like the mean type. She definitely looks calm, generous, nice, like easy to talk to. But she definitely shows that she has a weird passion or maybe a fetish or whatever it is. Who can tell for collecting different body parts from different creatures.
So all of these individuals were looking pretty rough. I'm not sure where kind of physical condition everybody will sit at. But again, if you need to take a short rest, you can grab up a short rest here and kind of like bandage yourselves up while you are effectively meeting and understanding that whatever destiny is ahead, you all are currently kind of looking through these ruins. The party here can kind of clue you in on a little bit more about what they are searching. But I feel like in the long run, it's enough to understand that there is a kind of destiny ahead of this group here.
And are we still after that rest? Are we still suffering from the effects of the vampiric kobold's bites?
Yes, a long rest is definitely something that you all will be able to decide. I was just going to say we can start kind of a short rest ahead, which kind of gives us like that's where we'll introduce Unthrall and figure out where everybody goes from there. Just because of how effectively deadly this place has been. Um, you do still have access to the idea of doing a tiny hut. As long as you all have Valine, she's still capable. It's just early to simply sit down for like an actual day's rest here.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Just confirming. So I didn't want to change anything on the sheet. But yeah, kind of we had discussed briefly the idea of maybe trying to chase after the fleeing things to try and finish them off. I think they'll probably regroup and come back at it again at some later point. But we were in pretty rough shape, so we hunkered down here instead. But Brannick, I think, would ask kind of like during the break, he would, turning to Unthrall, he would want to, he would ask like, how did he find his way here?
I follow the scent. Basically, I follow the scent decay. I don't look it, but I have a sharp nose. I might have detected some outsiders coming into these caverns. I suspect my intuition was right.
Well, there's certainly no shortage of decay here. It seems like we've run into little but dead things.
You don't say. So, your little motley crew. Where's to go from here? I'll follow the lead. I'll follow your lead. For now.
Best we can tell, the left of the those kobolds and the knoll that seemed to be leading them went south. So I would suggest if we're to continue our explorations, we perhaps see what lies down the northern passage um, back from this room that we were in where we initially saw the kobold. So up that way. That would be Brannick's suggestion. He has no desire to run into those kobolds any sooner than he absolutely has to again.
Agreed. I don't really feel like I'm going through another fight again after that last one. That one last one was a bit rough on us.
So
Wait,
Fenn's at least seen somewhat into that direction. My bad. Was that Jesse Unthrow? Did you have something?
pretty much during this small rest, he just kind of sits down, and with his whetstone, he just sharpens his battle axe. You can tell he's kind of eyeballing the bevel and the on. You can tell he's pretty much done this so many times. It's almost second nature. That's all I want to say.
This like large old lady, like, is gonna kind of like look across at you, to see you, and she'll kind of look and, if you are doing that by habit, be weary that we do not make more noise than we must. If you're doing it because you need it, well met.
Better to have it here, not need it, than need it and not have it.
So, Fen, you've seen along that passageway, you know at least that it kind of is like zigzags off, and you kind of head, I think, probably about 15 or so feet into it before you saw that it kind of points off into the northeasterly direction after a little bit of a zigzag. You didn't go much further into it, but if you all head back down there with a little bit of light, let me get a perception check from whoever's going to lead.
I guess. Well, Ben, you've been down that way before a bit, but Brannick is willing to lead if Ben doesn't.
Nice. All clear, guys.
Yeah, but you're stealthy as fuck too. So you're going to kind of like walk around this little area, where you're going to see kind of like this curve to the path. It kind of zigzags, open up into a little bulbous area that kind of gives you like a false feeling, but you can like see the stones beyond, where this room really opens up. And you're going to see just more of these stalactites and stalagmites in this massive kind of cathedral hall that's it's almost like a large triangle but quite tall, even though it's still domed. It's like 40 feet at the tallest. And just kind of seeing it for more stalagmites, you're going to get right up on this pile of snow before you notice that this snow is like formed into a body, and there are sockets for eyes and the look of this rudimentary face, arms, legs, and you're kind of standing right on top of this creature that just seems to be a humanoid pile of snow. And you're just kind of walking into this room without really recognizing it as anything. But you're also not necessarily making noise. Nothing's moving around you. You're just kind of looking at this, and you can see at least two more. I think you can see three more of these creatures. But you can guess from some of the other sides that there is approximately six of them in this room. And that puts you kind of like stumbled right up in that one. Kind of just walking forward without noticing anything. You're just like bumping into it kind of right there. And you're just going to notice that that is like an actual creature. Any thoughts what you're doing when you kind of like almost stumble into this thing?
Well, would Fenn's gonna freeze, hold up his hand, and trying to back slowly and silently away from it.
Yeah, you and Brannick up there, two of you can basically step into this room, encounter this. You kind of stumble into this creature, and yeah, you slowly move away. Still seems absolutely silent as you guys kind of get back into that little like bubble of a corridor.
And I move my icon. It's moving my map as well. So.
So Brannick would be asking Fen. I don't know how great of a glimpse that Brannick himself got. Did he see this thing move at all, or did he just recognize the shape of it as
No
like a
movement.
creature? And this was not like the kind of the vaguely formed kobold statues, right? This was seemed more. I guess Brannick would be asking
Yes.
Fen this.
I mean, you can describe it to him if you would like, but I would say like you're looking for, because I was basically doing this as like theater of the mind, anyways. It's like rudimentary, like snow that you see like the signs of like eye sockets and like a mouth. I would say think of it almost like just three dots in that kind of triangular position. It's that eerie feeling of seeing something that looks like nature, only it's anthropomorphized.
Gotcha.
Just to clarify that, my role wasn't that he was going to see this creature. It was how like bad was he going to like walk into it before he noticed it. That's why he basically like bumped into it. But he also has stupid high stealth. So when I rolled his stealth over here, he was also really, really quiet about it.
What do you think? What do you think, Fen?
I don't recognize it as some kind of magical being, but I've never encountered whatever it is before. If it's down here, I'm sure it's not hospitable.
So as they describe this kind of like snow creature and the dangers of anything that they encounter down here, what is going through like Unthral's mind here? How about Valixis? Do either of you have any thoughts?
Udall looks danger, especially in these tight corridors. For the most part, he's just trying to remind himself of exactly what's gonna happen and to always prep ahead of time for anything unexpected. The key in Unthal's mind is to never show fear when when it's not necessary.
Alexis has a little bit of curiosity. As she finally reached the, she went and walked down the corridor to where they were, and she kind of sees that shadow, the creature over there. She, she contemplates going over there, but so Brannick and Finn decide to have retreated and have not approached it much yet. She decides to hold back the in order to see what decided what they want to do next. So she does continue to watch the creature out of the corner of her eye for any movement or any sudden action that it might make.
Perhaps we simply try to get past them, move quietly. The passageway beyond this cavern.
You could probably see from where you're at that like a large part of this area goes on along kind of that northwestern area that opens up into a pretty big kind of sprawl. You can also see off to kind of like the east of you. There seems to be a decline as well as I think you'd almost see like as like almost like a path kind of goes like down and cuts into this hall. Like there's like a passage that like leads along that right side, along that eastern side.
Yeah, so Brannick might feel kind of like turning back to the others. He'll kind of try to like pantomime, like being quiet and kind of moving his hands, his arm to kind of indicate like he's thinking, let's go. If we hug this kind of western wall of the chamber, maybe we can try and move quietly past these things and continue our explorations. Brannick's idea.
So I really shouldn't have fully shrunk Valine at that point. But at some point, Valine still kind of like looking to her size, even though she's not like scrunched up as much to go through that corridor, she's still like a plug inside of that. Like she'll look at you all to see like, are you just, could you look first and I'll wait here? If everything looks fine, I'll come with you. Like if you guys want to be stealthy, she is not the picture of stealth right now.
Yeah, Brannick will not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Untho will not her and approach, though cautiously.
And Brannick will kind of nodding to Valine, kind of perhaps for now, best if you just keep a
She's
watch out
basically
behind
gonna
our
wait.
backs.
Yeah, she's gonna kind of wait in that corridor. Effectively, she's just the last person to come forward, but she kind of takes up that whole room once she's in there.
So yeah, Brannick will kind of he'll wait to see if Valixis or Fen or Enthrall have any objections. If not, he would start trying to quietly move kind of up north here, north, again hugging the wall.
Gotcha. And everybody's kind of following Brannick. So as he's like
This is
moving along the wall, everybody's going to be following in basically like what do we got? Brannick, Fen, um, Velixith, Unthrall. Who's kind of leading up the back?
I'm following behind Finn.
Gotcha. And then who technically has the light right now?
And I
Actually,
have dark vision. Does that help?
um, uh, I've made the dim light a little bit as well, like kind of so that it's not as bright when we go through the area.
You kind of broke up there, but did you say that Velixis has like you've got the light spell going right now, right?
I, the lights, I believe, dimmed it down a bit. Basically, covered it go. Yeah. Because if it's still since it's still dark down here for us, I did have it. I did dim it down a bit so that while we go through the area.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble making out Rashad.
Yeah, it was kind of cutting in and out for me too.
I think Felixus had cast light on something of his. One of the things that's, yeah, like inside of this place, the U3 with dark vision, you can't see anything just because of your dark vision. This place is pitch black. When you have light, you guys can see beyond that, but you're never going to see that revealed on the map. That's always going to be theater of the mind because you guys can't see detail in that stuff. That's the type of thing where you can see like a big difference in a wall ahead of you, but that doesn't tell you whether you're looking at a whole wall or like massive open spaces with a little bit of like a stalagmite there. There's a lot of room for interpretation when you're looking with dark vision. But yeah, I feel like Velixis had the light from Valine. It gives you guys about 20 feet here. Moving forward, Brennick, you can kind of see that there's a wall ahead of you around that corner, and you can kind of get around into that. As far as things go, as the group kind of like rolls around this, you'll see a little bit more of this area coming to kind of a tip. And as you all kind of form up along that like northwestern edge, you're going to start to see these creatures coming to life, and you'll recognize that moving in here, even quietly, is not quite enough to keep them from effectively starting to animate before your eyes, and they are walking towards you. We're going to roll for initiative. Oh, yeah, my bad. Never mind. Villian was not coming with. All right, so how is everyone reacting as you start to see movement from these creatures? What are first thoughts going on? Fen, what are you doing?
I'm going to draw my sword and attack anything that's hostile towards me.
Gotcha. I mean, you've got one of these things moving towards you pretty much directly to your, like, in front of you, realistically. You're back to the wall. So, is that hostile towards you? That it's walking?
Uh, is there any kind of expression, any kind of aura, or
For now, that's really all you've got. It's effectively just walking towards you right now. If that's enough, otherwise it's effectively you're holding your action, and if it starts to attack, you can attack as a reaction.
yeah, I think I'm going to err on the side of caution and just attack first.
Gotcha. Go for it.
So Fen will lash out with the longsword and a pair of unarmed strikes.
Yeah, so like punching a snowman directly in front of you, you hit it with everything. Are you doing a pair? Okay, gotcha. So yeah, all of those are going to hit. Uh, at any point, are you going to kind of toy with its key, or are you just going for just these solid smacks into this thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna hold the key at first to see what's going on, what kind of we're up against here, and I guess I will try to squeeze in between here and kind of shelter off Brannick.
Gotcha.
And then I will activate Agile Parry and a turn.
Yeah, so like a cut off of this is just going to remove a chunk of snow and a punch from it, and it seems to kind of blast the chunk. Another kick, and it starts to like just it's crumbling in weird ways while still kind of walking around like it is a human-sized snow pile. And it's still kind of making its way forward towards you. That'll take us to Brennick. What's kind of your thoughts as this thing's just kind of walking towards you? And despite like slicing and punching and hitting, this thing's still standing if it were not just a pile of snow in front of you.
Yeah, so Brannick will almost kind of, as he sees these things starts to move, he kind of almost like shrinks back against the wall. He's gonna kind of with his one hand, he kind of whips out the dagger and he's like back, but with his main right hand, he's gonna throw out his hand and as Fen is going towards this thing, he's going to be launching a firebolt into the same creature.
Solid strike with that for 11 damage. Um, and that's the one basically right in front of you all.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to just kind of blast through this ice, and it's just flying beyond. But you're going to see as like the ice is just kind of like stumbling forward, and the snow and it's like melting before your eyes as the flame has done its damage, and you like see as this snow is melting extremely fast and outward from the point where the snow kind of hit it. That creature is going to collapse to the ground at your feet.
And he's kind of sliding backwards along the wall here as he goes. So, but otherwise, that's all for Brannick.
So, Unpro, you've seen these creatures start to move as the group starts to move into this room. You've seen two of them cut down one of these things, and there's more that are just about 15 or so feet to your kind of like right or behind as you guys are like keeping along that wall. But what sort of things are you thinking here?
I'm thinking personally we're going to be sitting ducks with our backs against the wall with all those things, even with fire spells. Oh, there's no chance. There's not a direct chance we can win if all of them tackle us at once. So Ungo's gonna play it safe for now. Like he's not showing any kind of aggression towards these things. This is their home. Makes sense. So he's going he's gonna put aside put holster his battle axe and see if he can find a way to avoid collateral like on this in this magnitude.
What would you want to say to these creatures? What do you think's going to change this?
The creatures, they sapient, but are they sentient?
They're piles of snow that look vaguely humanoid.
Only anything I say would probably provoke, but I will try anyway. I'll talk to the closest one near me and just tell them that we are intruding. Apologies for intruding on your turf. We're leaving immediately. With no, we didn't leave with no collateral.
Anything else from you? Any other movement?
I scoot over here.
I think from around the corner, you'll simply kind of hear Valine's voice, just kind of saying something to the effect of, "What? Leaving? What's happening?" And then it will go to Valixis. What would you like to do?
Alexis is going to. Honestly, she's gonna move down closer to the one that's down here at the bottom, and she's gonna cast magic missile at it. Yeah, it's like this one right here. She's gonna throw a magic missile at it.
What level magic missile?
I'm gonna do a third level magic missile. Nope, sorry, second.
So I think 4d4. Or if you click the button, click that 4 times for us. And you said you're shooting at the one that's kind of like the southern of the 3 that you all can see right now?
That is correct.
Gotcha. So for 16 damage, you're just going to see as these wait, shouldn't you said second level? Yeah, so these 4 little like points of light are just
Yeah.
going to slam into this creature. Um Leaving discernible holes in the snow. It almost looks like somebody poked their finger into the snow. It's a single wound, even though there were 4 of these little missiles, is how accurate they end up being. If there is nothing else from Valixis, you're going to see some of more of these creatures kind of move in. Yeah, so there's 7, 3 of the Unthrall. Yeah, I think these things are just going to pile in on top of you all. And I think as far as things go, for the first turn, we're doing 1 on each of you as they just kind of move forward towards you. And then once they get within an arm's reach, their arms are just going to kind of rise up and they're just kind of like gripping for you. But you're seeing as like the fists are just like loading backwards and then like reaching out. So it's either like punching you or getting a hold of you. And it's going to reach out to each of you. Each one of these is going to kind of like throw 3 times at you to try to grab on. So we're just going to go down the list real quick here against Fen. 20 to hit you. I think 14 will miss, so 1 hit.
21 AC with the agile parry.
21. All right, cool. So that one's going to miss. With the last one, you're just going to feel as these fists kind of like fly past you and you're able to just kind of like duck out of the way. You can feel like an arctic cold attached to that fist, and it's just going to pull back just as fast as you kind of like move back into the way or into like a normal fighting stance. 3 on Brennick. The 18 for a 22 to hit you.
Yep, that'll hit. He's not going to shield that.
So you are going to take 7 bludgeoning damage as it slams into you, and then 3 as you just feel like this like shot of cold kind of like coming out of the like central portion of the bruise, almost as if like the entire force is like focused into this like needle point of cold. And then on to Unthrall. I don't believe any of those are hit. 15. Oh, wait, no. 15 is your AC, right?
Yes.
Alrighty. And you will reduce the bludgeoning damage. I don't believe you have resist the cold. So you will take 5 bludgeoning, which is 2 damage, and then 2 cold damage as the fist does that same little point focus of cold that just kind of like seeps out from this point where you've been punched. And then the last one at Velixis, reaching out. I believe 3 of those are going to hit you, Velixis. Do you have shield?
I do not. My AC is a 13.
Gotcha. This is going to be big time as this thing pummels into Velixis. The bludgeoning damage is going to be 11, and then the cold damage is what, a total of 6? 37. So you'll take 18. And you'll see like with each punch, like as this ice like pushes into Velixis, more and more of her kind of core is going to start to freeze. And at some point, Velixis will just kind of like shake it off. And you all have seen some minor signs that Velixis has an extra kind of ability and nature to cold, but this is going to be one of those times where any one of you could have fallen to punches like that for how these things start to freeze into your core. Velixis is among the few who can weather that storm. It is going to go to Fen.
I believe Brennick at the moment also has resistance to cold magic because he has the codicil on him.
Oh yeah, my bad. That's definitely how much cold did I do to you? Did you remember? Is
There's
it
only
that 4?
three, so I think it would become 1, right? Does it
Yep,
round
that
down
would
or
have been
round
1
up?
for you.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. I think the 4 was yeah, mine was
I
the
just looked at it.
initiative.
It
Yeah.
was another one of the 2d6 is how I knew it was another one of those. But yeah, we're gonna go back to top of the order. You guys still see like a total of 7 of these things moving into this corner. They have done a pretty solid job of kind of just smushing into you, and they're just like reaching out with those like hammer fist arms. They're blocking you in, but it doesn't mean you can't move through them, but they are still difficult terrain to kind of pass through. And there's more dangers beyond that. But what would you like to do, Fen?
How high are the ceilings in this room?
It's kind of like an arching, but it goes pretty high up. What are you thinking?
Just curious as far as maneuverability. I think I am going to strike out at the northernmost.
Gotcha.
That guy.
Yeah, again, you guys have a solid sense these things are easy to hit. That is a solid hit. Slashing damage, just like cutting off a chunk of this creature. Um,
I'm
and it just
gonna
kind of like slides off like a little like piece of cake.
follow it up with a unarmed strike, and then I'm gonna flurry of blows.
Yeah, so as you cut across this creature and then just start to like punch into this core, you're going to see as like each kind of like blow from your fist seems to be like manipulating the weave before your eyes, and you're able to see like these shocks of what is your key kind of flowing through this creature before all of a sudden with that final punch you're just going to kind of punch in a right place where this thing is just going to slump down to the ground. What snow is there kind of just falls across the ground like it's slush, as if your fists have heated it, and what bits of ice just kind of shatter across the ground.
Then I am going to swing around, uh, do a little bit of movement. That will activate Agile Parry and end the turn.
Gotcha. Are you breaking from so like one creature? It'll swing out at you.
Yeah, one.
uh, Going to grab a whole lot of nothing as it's like just punching in the middle of the air, searching for someone who is never there. And that will take us to Brennick.
Yeah, so Brennick seeing these things closing in and kind of trapping against the wall, he's kind of like shouting like you know, where to the others, and you'll see him again throw out his hand, but he at this point he's looking beyond these creatures, and he is going to launch a fireball into the kind of the southeastern corner of the room to trying to catch a bunch of these things and clear them out.
Gotcha. You want to drop it? There we go.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I fucking love that.
Was having it like kind of blast back towards them.
I'm laughing about the fact that like Valid's like peeping out of this corner, like everything going all right.
To be honest, Brannick wasn't even thinking of her, which makes
And it's part of why I was laughing about it because it is so perfect. As far as things go, yeah, it looks like you're hitting 5 of those. You are hitting nobody that you can see, but Valine is definitely still going to. Oh, and she's squeezed in there. She's technically this. Oh, I rolled a 4. Yeah, it does make better. She's definitely taking that.
Should have moved it up, Brannick. I wouldn't have held it against you.
Oh, I think this is going to be one of those moments that matters. Let me have Let me have everybody roll 2d8, but Justin roll 3, please. Don, I need you to re-roll both of those. All right, all right, all right.
Yeah, Brannick was a little panicky. Didn't even think of Valine hiding back there and or waiting back there.
Other than that, let's see. I need to roll those 5. My bad. I thought for a second about Valine could have possibly been killed by that. And your DC is 15 right now?
Yes.
Yeah, so none of those are going to pass. They're all taking 29. They are all vulnerable to fire. You are going to watch as those 5 golems are just going to melt, and there is little of the snow remaining to show any sign that they have ever existed there.
And assuming like Valine kind of cries out in pain as the flames wash over her, Brannick's gonna just let out a little kind of like shit.
I've got her in the initiative for some level of that, but on some level, like there's definitely the explosion itself about a fireball is certainly part of the event of casting a fireball. Like you'll lose a lot of that, but you'll definitely see it.
Yeah, and that's all for Brannick.
So, Unthal, these things both did not let up, nor did they seem to last long. There is only one remaining to the northeast. Are you drawing your axe? Otherwise, I believe we probably see the potential cleaning up. What thoughts do you have, Unthal?
I think our chances of victory went from slim to we won. So I just uphold my battle axe and I just and I here I stand my ground against the last one, and as I go into mindless rage. Give me a second. What does that do?
Gotcha. So I think you're moving up to Fen right now, but if you move just beyond him, it's the creature just a little bit north of him. But yeah, when you go into a rage, you just add a little bit of damage. You take a little bit of reduced damage. I forgot you were not in a rage. I don't know where I told you the damage, but it would have been more. But you can make your attacks. I believe you chose a frenzy barbarian. This is one little creature. If you want to rage, go for it. But you definitely don't want a frenzy over one little guy. Are you going with your battle axe? I believe you will have 2 attacks.
Would I get an advantage on intimidation? God, I hate to push to talk.
No, you do not have advantage on this attack.
So, for the first time, they're going to see me in mindless rage. I'm going to raise my battle axe and
What are you trying to do to intimidate it? You're just doing like a show of your physical prowess?
yeah, like primal primal athleticism.
Gotcha.
Primal side.
And do you have anything else in mind that you would like to do?
I kind of like I t- I jump and slash down from its forehead, from its head down to its side. I cut through it with my battle axe.
All right, you can roll those attacks, but there's a lot less describing before the rolls. You want to see what the rolls do ahead of time. You're not going to do an intimidation because the intimidation is like taking up your turn. So instead of getting up there and flexing at it, you can definitely slash at it with your axe. You can make 2 attacks with an axe for every action. And you've got 1 action here. If you click the kind of left side of the battle axe, and then roll the damage for it, and then click that same button, and then roll the damage again. So the first attack, you'll get a solid hit. You're going to do 12 damage as you kind of cut into this thing. The axe is just going to kind of sink into the snow. The second time, as you kind of like slash at it, this creature is just kind of moving around fast enough that as you're swinging, it's just not there anymore, and the axe just kind of flies past. With that first attack, you'll notice that there's definitely a lot more kind of robustness to the snow, and it'll kind of clue you in a little bit more that again these are very magical beings, and they seem resistant to your axis strike. Any other movement or anything else from Untral, it would go to Valine, who again is just kind of calling out, and then Valixis.
I just simply I look to the well, I can't really think, I can't really act other than my violent tendencies. So I'm going to actually I'm going to activate danger sense and hold my turn.
I don't think you ever need to activate danger sense. I think you'll always just kind of have that perception. But it will take us to Valine, just kind of calling out. She's definitely surprised by the fire. In the long run, you guys have saved her just as much as you've kind of forgotten about her. There might be an ongoing dialogue about her being quick to be the odd man out. But Valixis, what kind of thoughts do you have as one of these things remain? The others have been melted.
With the last one remaining, Valissa says, decides to use cure runes on herself real quick. She feels like the others can handle that last one, but that too much of a burn on her hassle.
Gotcha. Quick little prayer to get yourself healed. One of these creatures is going to strike out at Unthral, grabbing 1 hit with a 15. It's going to deal 1 bludgeoning damage and then 9 cold damage to you. Assuming Ben is going to finish this one off, theoretically your entire line should be able to kill this thing, but it is going to continue to attack you all. No apparent change on this thing at all, just kind of walking forward, arm outreached, and when it gets close enough, those fists are just kind of like punching forward and trying to grab at you. Assuming you guys finish this off, there's kind of a moment of quiet here. Any thoughts as you kind of take this room?
Yeah, Brannick is kind of with the room cleared out a bit. He's going to kind of move out of the corner back into the center. He's kind of looking. So the piles of snow that these creatures kind of formed out of, were they kind of entirely taken up by the creatures? Is there still snow remaining kind of on the ground, like aside from the like actual like piles of it?
So how I like to kind of imagine this is that there is snow kind of like falling from a solid ceiling, and it just seems like there's almost like little tears in the weave in this room, that the snow is falling through a surface that it can't really pass through. And you guys are kind of watching as these snowflakes are falling into those same areas. Uh, while I think it's sufficient to say these like were like the piles of snow, I don't think it is beyond your understanding to see signs that perhaps this new snow is going to fall into more of these same uh, automatons.
Because Brannick is wondering, is it, was it these piles themselves or something about the area that seemed to bring these things about. So he's going to kind of be like looking towards the others, and at this point he'll kind of remembering Valine was there. He'll you know give like a little story. We were uh, hemmed in, couldn't be helped, but he's gonna tell the others like I don't think we should linger here over long.
To that, Unthrall just um is kind of like working off excess anger. So like just like embeds his battle axe into the ice below, embeds his battle axe in the ice below, and just starts slamming the snow and ice with his fists. I'm like working through some things. He didn't want to have to fight these things if it was going to be a losing battle. Seeing as that's not the case, he's just kind of working through some excess things. A little bit of anger, some tension. That's all.
Are you saying any of that, or are you smashing just physically everything's going attacking into the ice?
Unthrall's just non-verbally showing his aggression. I did just activate mindless rage after all.
So you all will see as this newfound member kind of like goes crazy, tears through this creature, and then starts to kind of like rage into the ice, just kind of full force attacking this, showing no signs of really being turned by force that would kind of break most of your own bones, and just kind of slowly coming to themselves. You're going to start to get a better view of this kind of area, finding that in general, these rooms are empty. There's this large room where the snow seems to fall into these formations, where you saw these 8 snow beasts. There's an empty room to the east that's just kind of clean ice, and then a room down below that kind of walks off to the southeast. Do you all think you would explore everything as a group, or are you sending like just Finn and Brannick to kind of explore these areas? What kind of thoughts about exploring this area would you have?
Felix will stay. It looks like there's more areas, more rooms that we could probably explore. Um, though I don't think I can handle another encounter immediately if we ran into anything. Then, Brannick, if y'all want to check the rooms out before us and let us know if it's safe to enter, uh, I will gladly be okay with that. Also, if you find any like magical items or anything, of course, let us know. Um, but that's for me. I think I'm gonna sit against this wall until I get the okay from y'all that it's safe to enter the room. It might be good to find a spot to rest real quick for a little bit.
Yeah, so Brannick would kind of moving forward, kind of trying to grab Fenn's attention, kind of nodding off towards I think he probably be looking to go explore kind of up north the rest of this part first before yeah, this up this way, and then kind of returning, probably doing the one downstairs last in terms of the order of exploration.
I like the idea to kind of see that there is a long, massive kind of like filament sized tunnel that just kind of like is a crack through this ice. And there's just kind of a weird sensation that like ever so slight kind of blue glow through the ice just kind of shows you this is one of those weird places where you get buried in this tomb, you could slowly find your way to the surface from that. But you just kind of like take a few moments crawling up far enough into that area, you are going to be starkly aware by how much ice and how much earth just kind of exists above you all, even at this point, which is one of the higher points where you guys have gotten. But yeah, that side is just going to kind of dead end into that, hopefully, kind of like a shred of hope in that little bit of light.
So Braddock will try to make a mental note of that. This may be our maybe a potential way out if worse comes to worst.
Let me have each of you, Fen and Brennick, roll a d6 for me. So you guys get to the second room, kind of like look through it a little bit. There's nothing really there. Takes you a few moments to see. It's just a small 20 by so foot room, nothing much. When you get to the southern room that you kind of walk down that little corridor, Fen kind of looking in the same direction as Brennick as you guys are just kind of scanning this. Uh, Brennick, you are going to see that tentacled beast just kind of flow right through the ice in front of you. And you just kind of see this flash of this massive dark creature kind of followed by these tentacles that like reach off of it for like 20, 30, 60 feet as it seems to just swim by that like southeastern edge of that room and then it's gone. And you look at Finn, he's looking in the same area and he's not reacting at all. Finn, I would assume on some level, you're seeing fright in Brannick's eyes as he like looks at you here.
Yeah, you'd see Brannick essentially kind of like freeze in place, almost like suck in a breath and hold it for um yeah, for a while before like letting it out kind of
Almost like that car accident phase where like you reach across and you put your arm over the person in the passenger seat. Like just that last moment of Brennick's kind of like being quiet and trying to make sure that Fen recognizes the same danger and that he's not even near on the same level as you are, Brennick. But it's just for an instant. You see that flash by, and then you can basically see there's otherwise nothing to this little cavern.
yeah, so then looking toward Fen and seeing yeah, not seeing his own kind of fear reflected in Fen is going to kind of like he's going to turn back and like kind of look down at the ice again for a moment, like back to Fen, kind of shake his head, and then seeing that there doesn't seem to be anything else within this room, kind of start back up the stairs towards the others.
Until mindless rage kind of clears, his head sort of a reflected of that as he kneels, reminded of his reminded of a voice in his head, reminding a voice in his head reminding him of You guys just kind of see him kneel and take a deep breath. As he pulls his axe out of the ice and dirt, cleans it off, and then holds it on his back. Ungal is calm and collected, so he's gonna walk over to these to here. What was that? You left in such a hurry.
Didn't see uh, nothing in the rooms, but as I said, we shouldn't linger here. I don't know if those things we destroyed, they might be reform at some point. Odd place. But,
Don't you know it's rude to keep a lady waiting?
you'll see him kind of as he's responding to Unthrall, he kind of like glances back again, kind of over his shoulder, back towards the stairway down. But he doesn't say any. Brennick doesn't say anything about the massive creature that he saw. He's almost starting to doubt himself a little bit based on Fenn's non-reaction.
Gotcha. Trying to internalize that. Um, yeah. So, Valixis, what do you have going on right now?
Melissa's kind of like after getting back a little energy. She kind of understands. She asks, "Is it safe to just?" You said we should go ahead and leave, but are we able to rest a little bit? If not, we could. I don't mind if we go ahead and. Um, said it was a dead end over there. Did you? What about this other path? Does this other path have any way to go, or were you only able to check the one?
I prefer not to. There was nothing aside from possibly a way out up in Barnacle Point towards the north, but he'll suggest that we kind of head back the way we had come, and doesn't want to risk spending time in either of these kind of side chambers or in here with the kind of the falling snow. So he would suggest we start kind of moving back the way we'd come.
Well, this is actually at the mention of falling snow, but let's just look thanks about that and looks up to see the snow falling. It's not. It's coming through holes in the ceiling, isn't it? Or is
Oh,
it just
that's what I was
falling
saying.
from
That is clearly a magical effect because there are solid ceilings above you, and this snow is just floating down through, and it's just kind of piling up into those piles.
Just so the two of you know,
Yeah, that's the.
I grew up in the mountains. Cold like this cuts deep.
We should. We should definitely. Yeah, we should. As she continues to look up, we should. Yeah, we should definitely go ahead and head up out of here. And she begins to go back down the corridor with everyone.
So inside of this room, you all have 4 different directions you can go. You just came from the northeast. You have the area to the northwest where some of the vampire kobolds are kind of like slain on the ground, and then the area that goes upward. Well, actually, each of the western ones go upward, and then one area that goes downward to the south. Where would you all like to start moving? Are you just holding here?
Yeah, seems to be only one way we haven't gone yet. Brannick looks a bit trepidatious because he thinks that's the way the vampiric creatures fled, but seems to be nothing for it but to continue on, at least for now. Assuming kind of Fen has the same idea, he'll be following closely behind.
I think I heard Rashad there. What were you thinking? Maybe I was
Oh,
wrong.
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think my thing. I didn't think the thing.
So, kind of heading downward. There's going to be kind of a steeper area for a while before it starts to level out a little bit. You all will see curves ahead of you. Eventually, one of these curves looking to the right, not to the right, to your left, as you kind of head downward, is going to kind of show signs of opening up in front of you. And while you rotate around, are you all going to try to like move slowly here? Are you trying to keep the light to a minimum when you first look? Or are you just kind of going for that first look that you can and try to grab as much as information as possible, just kind of when you first get to that room? Like basically when it first starts to show signs of opening up, are you continuing to shine the light, or is that when you're hiding it? Do you try to look over the room first with the light?
So let's suggest let her take a quick peek with the light, since she'll be able to get more of a view of what's in the room. If you're okay with that, Brendan, I could definitely take a quick peek into the room real quick and see if there's anything in there.
Brannick will kind of at Velix's suggestion, he'll kind of step back and kind of to the side a bit to try to let her kind of like squeeze past him.
Alright, she slowly works her way past Brennan. She kind of presses herself against the wall, and she slowly peeks out, and she sticks the torch out and illuminates the room a lot more to take a look and see what's in the area.
Gotcha. So as you're going to flash around this room, the initial area that you can see is going to have kind of like a slight little kind of vacuum to it. And you can kind of feel like stepping up to that door, there's almost like a pull that tries to draw you into this room, and stepping further from this just initial point where the room starts to open up to the side of you. It's going to open a little bit more to your right than to your left. It's kind of closed off to your left, but after a while, you kind of see an expansive darkness that this area kind of opens up ahead of you, even beyond the actual rays of the light. And then as far as like around you, you can see signs that the walls are a little bit closer on the south side. You're probably walking into a big room. You are probably walking into a room that expands up and to the north to your left. But you see at least the first signs of the wall there. And after kind of gathering your step, as there's that first little vacuum that sucks you into the room, you're gonna smell, and this is another one of those rooms that smells like rot.
Alright, so after then with the saw and smelling the rot, I turn back to Brennick and Finn and let them know that the room smells like rot. It's definitely a large room. It looks like it expands upwards to the left a bit, so we may be able to continue to go up from this room. But the room smells of rot, so there might be there may be something in here. But at the present moment, I don't see anything.
Shouldn't we regroup on the surface before excavating any further? We just got through a fight with sentient snow. I just think it's a bit risky. Reckless even. Reckless. To go further into the den.
Yes, it may be, but I just saying we could if we were to backtrack, there's no guarantee that it would be safe backtracking either. I mean, yeah, we did fight creatures along the way, but we just say that more creatures haven't come to occupy those areas. I swear, if we push forward, um, and further in, we're bound to we're bound to still find a way out, and at the very least, this way we are constantly still moving, or rather just sitting still. So regardless of which, I mean, whether we backtrack or not, the risk is still there since we are technically under this glacier.
I would suggest we proceed cautiously. There are spot you spot those things. It may be best to heed on Thrall's advice and get the hells out of there as quickly as possible.
Agreed. Um, if y'all would like, I'll definitely follow y'all's lead while I carry the light.
So Brannick will offer to try to kind of start moving, trying to move stealthily into this room, once again moving past Valixis.
Gotcha. And then Felixis is following behind you with light,
Yes.
and then we're doing Fen on Thrall, and Valine will kind of be behind. So as you all kind of look around this room, you're going to start to see as you illuminate it that there's kind of a little corridor pocket to the south, a little area that starts to reach down to the southeast, and then three little pockets up towards the north that seem to kind of end abruptly like the other to the south. When you kind of explore a little bit deeper into this cavern, there is a large kind of cylinder of ice that kind of rises from the ground and kind of meets in its narrowest point, kind of about 10 feet above the ground. This is effectively the meeting of a stalagmite and a stalactite. And this ice is surrounded by kind of like a soft red like slushiness, and kind of like looking around the ice you'll see scratch marks all over it, and eventually kind of a point which is shattered, and you'll see these like scrape marks of hair, flesh, and oh man, coagulated blood just kind of like dripping from this ice. Not even really dripping. It's kind of like just a jelly that's kind of clinging from this ice, but you can see um, like hair, flesh, and blood that's kind of stuck to this ice, where something seems to have crawled in or crawled out of it.
Cylinder seems to be connected with those creatures somehow, given all this. Brannick wants to kind of take a look at this kind of pillar of ice. Aside from the coagulated blood and the hair and stuff, does he see anything that looks like it could be like writing or symbols anywhere on this pillar. You would kind of do like a walk around, or how wide? If you would try, yeah, essentially try to do like a walk around of it.
It's probably a good and I feel like say like 7 foot radius. No, 7 foot diameter. So you're looking like it's almost like 10 feet to walk around. It takes you about 2 or 3 seconds to walk around it. It is a sizable stalactite or stalagmite. It is a pretty sizable thing to walk around. As far as writing any emblems, I don't think you can even roll for it because this appears to be as natural as anything else that would freakishly crawl out of the ice.
Yeah, so that makes Brannick wonder what it is about. What is it about this thing that seems to seems to draw these creatures? Perhaps.
Roll a Arcana for me, Brennick. And I feel like let me have Felixis kind of throw in on that as well, please. So, okay, perfect. As you're kind of looking over this thing, you can recognize from the signs here that this ice was not clawed into. Whatever split this ice open, split the ice. Um, I think 15's good enough to say it blatantly enough. You have a solid hunch, the two of you, that the magic used to open this cavern was probably the magic that split this ice. That there were creatures clawing themselves to bloody states trying to get into this thing, which has now been freed.
So as that realization kind of dawns on Brannick, similarly to kind of the sense he got when they first beheld that kind of massive eldritch horror beneath the ice, he's like, um, what might we have unleashed opening this place up?
The powers of the Netheril were great, and perhaps there will be a cost that we did not understand that we would pay. But looking especially to Velixis and to Brennick, Valine's going to kind of look to you. There's a reason we risk our lives. And you have helped many people inside of these areas. It's not always without understanding the complete cost.
Brannick will nod at that.
That's the thing about destiny. It's not chained, it's not set in stone. It's yours to bend and mold as you see fit. I, for one, am proud to stand before such adventurers.
So with like between Valine's words and Enthrall's words, Brannick will you'll see him kind of almost like stiffen himself then a little bit straighter, kind of shaking off the kind of some of the uncertainty that kind of gripped him as he was kind of looking around this pillar, and he will kind of nod similarly to Unthrall, to Valine, and then he'll kind of look off towards maybe towards the north and kind of gesture with Velixis with the light as he starts to move to kind of take a look in that direction.
My apologies there. Which direction were you going first?
Oh, sorry, the north. So north of where Valine is now.
Gotcha. So Velixis, if you follow with the light, when you guys get close to there, you're going to see there's just two small kind of corridors in that direction. They just open up into small little rooms before you'll find them kind of dead end, just little pockets of space. And looking around to the third little pocket near Valine there, you'll see again, it's just kind of like an opening. There doesn't appear to be anywhere else to go from this room other than to start to head south and downward deeper into the ice.
Yeah, so Brannick will he'll note these spots because he'll suggest if we do need to try and find some place to rest later, perhaps Valine, if you can that trick with the dome again, this might be a spot we could use. Um, but otherwise, he would start towards the last remaining seeming and place to go. So to the south there.
So heading to the south, you all will drop about like 50 or so feet deeper into the ice before eventually coming on a split in the tunnel where it kind of continues off to the east and then to the south of you all. You can kind of see each one where they seem to bend. The one to the south kind of bends to the west. The one to the east kind of bends to the north. But you kind of have two directions ahead of you that you could go at first here.
So Brendan kind of stopping around the not really a T. Oh yeah, I guess kind of like a T. He's just gonna try and he's gonna pause and listen, try to see if he hears anything coming from either direction. Aside from the kind of normal sounds they've been hearing.
Got your roll of perception here. Getting everybody quiet enough, you can kind of pick up the almost. I don't even know if this is a natural sound. I guess like if somebody ever pierced their lung, is might be the only time you ever really hear, or bagpipes, like the sound of kind of a air pressure leak, and you can kind of hear this just like soft whistle coming from the south. It's just very faint, very quiet. It's just enough to kind of recognize that that little like tug that brought Velixis into that initial room with the stench of death is kind of coming from that southern area.
Okay, do we feel any sort of air current uh noticeably different than anything we felt yet?
I would say everybody would kind of feel that little like low pressure tug as you like walk through that doorway into that room. But after you actually like cross that little barrier, you won't feel that again.
Gotcha.
Because it
Okay.
basically ends up being that's a small doorway for kind of that general area where like the lowest pressure just kind of like becomes an issue. I feel like I've come across areas and houses where you feel these like little like soft spots. It's kind of weird. But you can like usually find like a drafty window near them. It's a very weird thing. I might just be crazy as fuck. It's a magical world.
Yeah, I guess Brannick is wondering this the stench of death that that we smelled in this room, could it have been carried kind of up there from this direction, or is it that's kind of what he's wondering, but
It
he's
would
noticed.
definitely it would definitely be hard to pinpoint if the stench were from that room, from below, or from above. You have that major room above you was where you actually first encountered the kobold vampires. And then the room that you're in is kind of that like large pillar that almost has this like gelatinous blood from what was the kobolds like scratching their paws bloody. Uh, like there's blood and like rotten sick in both of these rooms. but it doesn't mean that going south, you're not going to encounter more of that. It kind of like lingers in the air of these rooms that you've been in recently.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so Brannick will kind of look back through the others, then kind of glance back towards the south and give a little shrug, like almost ask, like, you hit that, follow that way, continue south. Wants to kind of get the others' uh, impressions of where we should go before he moves forward again.
One of us should stay behind. I imagine her ladyship over there can't exactly fit through these tunnels. One of us should stay behind, keep her company. While the remaining three chart a course.
I think Lean, what I've seen, knows how to take care of herself. If you weren't into anything, we could certainly use your axe.
I'm perfectly capable to squeeze through these areas. It was really when we had to be stealthy that I can't do much quiet.
As you will. Whatever we do together. As one.
Part of why I say, though, she has been following the rear of the group is because she is a plug in all of these holes. She fits because she's squeezing through for sure. But, like, if you guys split off, she is effectively a portcullis, like, in those things. If you guys needed quick action, it's not going to come from her. So if you head to the southern room first and you guys kind of clear it, I think I actually messed up that the room that you were kind of in was empty. Maybe kind of a sickly room. That room that you come into in that hallway is actually, it seems to be like a pillar that opens at the bottom and kind of like drops into a pit, but it's like covered in the ice. And it's surrounded by 12 human skulls that are all kind of looking at this ice pillar. I think my mistake works out better. I'd like that the ice pillar is just kind of confusing. It is a clear, solid cylinder that kind of rises up 15 feet towards this 30-foot ceiling of this kind of small domed room. And there's just 12 humanoid skulls that are all just sitting there, all of them face pointed towards the ice, but nothing inside of this ice.
Are we able to tell whether they look like purposefully arrayed? Like, are they fairly equidistant from each other in terms of? Like you said,
Well,
they're all
there's like
looking
no other
inward towards.
skeleton. There's no other skeletal mass in this room. Um, the fact that you're seeing 12 skulls, I feel like definitely tells you that there's like some culture happening here. Whoever it is who brought these here, something had to have brought these here because there's not a body to go with it. There's no spinal cord. It's just the skull. Probably safe to say there's not even bottom jaws to them. Maybe like 1 in 3 has a bottom jaw, but these are like just the skulls kind of arranged around.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't even think you need to put this to an intelligence test. It'll take you a few moments to count those before you will remember that the previous room that you all slept in had 12 headless skeletons.
Oh, the shadows. The
But yeah, I think this room would more be a sense of kind of the creepy ritual ahead of you. Um, Is this kind of a generic? We've got Brennick and Fen leading. Is anybody else checking this out? I would like anybody who walks into that room to roll a d8 for me.
I mean, imagine Valixis would need to be up there because she's the one carrying the light, so Brannick wouldn't be walking off into the darkness.
Oh yeah, I said that wrong. Okay, my bad. I forgot we did switch this, where it's Brennick and then Valixis. Um, yeah, I think that works. That regardless, the two of you kind of having this shocked moment here. Um, yeah, I think for what it's worth, there's nothing that's like kind of terribly frightening about this room. Only that you just kind of have this sensation that that pit is leading directly down to that room that you all effectively fled from a while ago. So it probably sits a little bit deeper on Brannock right now. That's just another one of these like pits into the deeper areas, but unlike those larger kind of like areas that Valine has sent her owl, this thing just seems to be like a borehole. It's just straight down.
At this point, I just simply say this. Well, I suppose one of us could take the plunge and see what awaits us. What do you three think? What do the four of you think?
Definitely accessible. So that's like still like a cylinder of ice. You can just see in the center of it, it has this like void that is the hole that goes down. But you guys can like look through this pillar of ice that these skulls are looking through. So you could cut your way to this. And there's definitely like a test tube that you could kind of like sink yourself into.
If this does lead to that thing we saw beneath the ice, I've no desire to go anywhere near it. Or did these things perhaps they worshipped it? Kind of again looking at the kind of the skulls arrayed around the pillar. Perhaps this was perhaps this was something, some sort of way they dropped offerings, or but I've no desire to go down there.
Without taking some time to look around it, you can also spot there's not like a place to drop anything into it. It kind of just extends up like towards the ceiling before it just stops abruptly.
It's okay. Whatever we do from this point on, we do as one. I'm ready to follow the group wherever you wish to take it.
That leaves one direction left unexplored.
Kind of like backing her butt up the way. Eileen's gonna kind of struggle to like turn around, getting out of the way of the little T junction before she kind of like pops up on the other side. Just kind of giving that moment, like if you guys actually walk towards her versus just opening up that little T angle. Um, if you're kind of towards the front now, Ben, are you going to push forward? Do you have any thoughts about like having Valixis kind of like walk between everybody's legs, or do you want to wait for Brennick to kind of take back over?
I'll wait for Brannick and Velixus to light.
Gotcha. So you guys can kind of like switch back around. There's a little bit more space in that little T junction. You kind of like head through these little zigs and zags in the ice, parts where the corridor gets a little bit smaller, gets a little bit wider, and eventually you're going to come to another area where the room kind of opens up around you. The initial kind of flash of what you see is that the room's kind of opening up to the northeast of you after a sharp right turn. Do you have any thoughts? Are you gonna kind of like just keep walking forward? Are you trying to keep the light minimal? Are you jumpy as soon as you see it open up beyond the corridor? What are you thinking?
I'm personally thinking that this cylinder might be the most reckless way to go. So I'm gonna drawing back. I'm gonna take my two hand axes and start chip away, making an entrance into the cylinder.
All right, so you're gonna start hacking away at the ice back there,
Yes, until
and
I
your
find
goal
that
is to
appropriate
jump
device.
down into that.
Before I simply say to the others, "This is how I die." It was a pleasure meeting all of you. As I take my battle axe, and I just make the descent into the hole.
With it been in kind of that little corridor right there, did we hear? Oh, were we able to hear him hacking away at the ice?
Um, I'm tempted to take a break here and kind of take a moment to actually talk about this because I feel like this is a moment to kind of stop you from full agency because that is definitely a hole that is going to get your character killed. It is meant to be described in a body's shape, so that's kind of like the spelunking into an area where you don't even recognize with every like exhale that you're making a smaller and smaller compartment for yourself before you can't move. So that's not meant to be like something that you're looking at and thinking like this is where I need to go. In general, you would have already come into this place, and if you want to jump down like a suicidal hole, you've got the one that the party can actually follow you on. And I feel like that's where like we kind of have to twist a little bit of this. You're jumping into a game that's been happening. If you want to suicidally jump down a hole, at least that side has the potential of the party being around with you versus something like that. It is very much meant to just show you there is like an infinite deep where you all are. And that's why I say like we've got to kind of talk like are you trying to do something to help the group or are you trying to kill off your character right now?
None of that happened. So I press onward with the group.
Yeah, like when you're ready to start going down, they're kind of coming to the conclusion here where they recognize this whole area they've kind of explored, their path forward seems to be down. And the other area where you all have explored, you had another one of those giant slides that just kind of leads down and deeper into the ice. And then the actual stairway that you all took previously that slowly just like wound its way down. You don't know which is deeper of those three, but those are the three ways forward that like all of those ways are leading down further into the ice. The difference is like that little hole is kind of like if you wanted to spend some time cutting your way to it to drop something down, but in the long run, at some point, cutting through that ice, you've got to start to think like there's only going down. And if everybody doesn't follow me, you're going alone. So again, let's take
Yeah.
a break here. Come back at like 5:35. If everybody's back before then, we'll pick up once everybody's back. But basically, take 15 minutes, or once you're back at your computer, just like say inside of the Roll20 chat that you are back.
Yep. Sounds good.
I need to lay my head down for a bit. So, if it's alright, I think I'll call it a day. Besides, this is a little bit too expensive than I hoped.
Hope you feel better. Be well. Have a great night. You're welcome to talk to me during the week here. And yeah, talk to you later, Jesse.
Thanks.
So when you all are kind of picking up here, you kind of have this next corridor off to the north of you all. You can kind of explore into that corridor, a few zigzags. You're eventually going to come to the area where it kind of opens up. Just kind of walking into it normally, or you guys being more cautious than anything?
So I think Brannick is he's going to be cautious. We still haven't encountered those kobolds yet again. This seems to be one of the last kind of places on this level that we haven't explored yet. So he's feeling somewhat trepidatious. So he will be trying to move kind of cautiously and quietly.
Gotcha. Roll a perception for me. So when you flash around this corner, you're going to see a kind of like ceiling expanse going from like 15 feet above in like a corridor to this 25, 30-foot ceiling. Again, very jagged stalactite action from above. Many of these rooms are the same kind of feel where it's actually more that the ice kind of pulled apart like jagged teeth, and like the room kind of expands in between there. And you kind of like look up into that, and for a moment, you're going to see a flash before your eyes as there is this giant, massive creature kind of looming above you, almost 25 or so feet tall. And as it kind of like swings its body mass forward, you're seeing that its hand holds just kind of like a spiked little gauntlet, and attached to this is a chain, and dragging behind that chain is this massive just chunk of like broken um like uh, not marble rock, but I want to say like a single kind of form to the rock, and it's just kind of this massive chunk of rock that's just being brought around like a mace, and it like forms into your view and kind of slashes forward, and then it just disappears as you're kind of like looking away. In that same moment where you catch yourself, you're like looking back away to duck the light back in. Nothing ever comes. You just saw this in that moment where you kind of looked around this corner. Still silence, still a little bit kind of the smell of death, but like there's just that like moment of a hallucination while you looked around that corner. There's essentially a little bit more of a room kind of ahead of you.
Yeah, so Brannick is um he might have even like just like kind of instinctively kind of almost like cried out a bit, almost like stumbling backwards as this kind of image flashes before his eyes, or like as it disappears, he kind of rights himself, and again he's kind of like shaking his head, and this is like the third time or so that he's seems he's seen something. He's not sure. Like, is this some? Is he seeing something that hasn't happened yet? Because he's seen visions, given what he is.
Make an intelligence check for me, and I think I want to say just do it as a normal arcana, so you've got proficiency. So I think with this kind of moment where once again you're almost like flashing across a room, or the first time you're stepping into an area's energy, you're starting to recognize the connection that this place has to the weave. Things like the snow falling through the solid ice, the creatures that have died coming back. There seems to be have been no loss of life and complete loss of life in this place. Um, I think you have to recognize, or this will be where Brannick kind of has to come to terms a little bit, where this place is utterly magical. And there's definitely something more to whatever this place locks away. And I think that's just kind of like a throwback to the idea that whatever that was below, a lot of what you've been seeing in this place are basically the kind of things that it's not like countries have to worry about. This is a threat to this world. And you're kind of like starting to see like glimpses into like where it tears into this kind of magical space in the same way that like the Netheril did.
Yeah, so that's kind of this realization kind of strengthens. He's definitely Brannick is unsettled.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think you know and understand that the Netheril kind of went too far with their manipulation of magic, and that's what kind of destroyed their whole civilization. And probably what you would expect has destroyed this place for you guys to find right now.
right, right. But so yeah, so it takes him a few moments to kind of get over the kind of the fright. Um, but again, he kind of like shakes his head, tries to kind of like mutters a little couple, bit under his breath, and then kind of starts forward again.
So moving back up there, you're gonna kind of feel like almost a um, vertigo kind of feeling where your head kind of swirls for a moment before just like kind of looking down into the ice. You can actually see that there is a giant that's basically frozen into the ice, and you can see hanging off from its arm is that gauntlet that you saw. This massive stone block kind of like draws its arm up and away from its body, and it's just kind of frozen like right below your feet, and it covers most of the space that this room kind of takes up. Eventually, as you get light on it and can see, um, again, pretty much an empty room, kind of the jaws of ice around it, but there seems to be a frozen giant just beyond your view that you kind of just hallucinated.
Yeah, so Brannick kind of moving in, kind of like he kind of bending over to like look at this thing underneath the ice. Aside from that, like chain and like the slab of rock, is he able to tell anything about uh like does the creature seem to be? Can you tell anything from like what it's wearing? Is it like armored?
Yeah, I mean it's got like the gauntlet and like that like chain fist kind of set up right now. I think for all sakes it would still be like rather well armored. You would certainly see that it's probably just rocking out like leather with like steel like parts on it. It's by no means in like some crazy plate or anything. It seems like a warrior frozen in the ice though.
Yeah, so he would kind of stand back up, kind of turn back towards the others. What do you make of this?
Another in a long list of oddities for this place.
Well, let's just kind of reach this down, just examine the body a bit more. Do you think it'd be possible to maybe thaw him out a bit to see if we can examine his body a bit more to see what we can learn? Or do you think it'd take too long to thaw it out, even with magic?
2 feet down in the ice. How much time do you guys want to invest in making your way to this creature? And what sort of means do you want to put to this?
Brannick, 2 feet of ice would probably take quite some time to melt. I don't know. Brannick doesn't really have anything that can be used to like physically chip away the ice. It probably way, way too long with like a dagger kind of blade that he has.
True. I mean, the only thing I can suggest that we use is either firebolt or fireball, and that'll probably cause too much damage to the body. Um, perhaps I guess perhaps we should just mark this location, and if we're able to make our way back here another time, we could definitely bring the proper tools to actually examine the body.
Yeah, Brannick would agree with that. You know, now that we know it's here, perhaps in the future it'd be something to investigate further.
So you all can. I don't know if you all have anybody set up kind of as a cartographer at this point. If you all have made any effort into drawing this map, do you have any thoughts about what you are currently doing? If again, at this point, you kind of understand you have walls ahead of you, and it's basically go down one of the three tunnels. One you can walk down, and two that are like those big boreholes that kind of lead to where the Remrazes seem to have these pools of water beneath the ice.
Yeah, given our options, Brannick is his vote would be for the stairs. He'd rather not go flying down a chute straight into to the Remorazes.
Ben will second that.
Stairs definitely seem to be the safest.
I don't have to tell you the stairs are not fine with me. I would follow you that way as well. But I was able to see that at least from the fallen tower, the path has more space before we would be in their corridor. But the actual like pit that you guys would walk to get back to those stairs, she'll eventually point to that one, and it's like that one to slide down. We fall directly into their maw.
Yeah, so that would be one that, yeah, definitely want to avoid.
So again, Valine is still shrinking. Valine is still massive. It's probably been about 2 or 3 hours. She's probably like down to like 22 feet or 21 feet tall. She takes up vastly the same amount of space, but you can already see like kind of a return of her size a little bit. You all can come back down into this area. You do not have to come back into this exact situation. There basically is kind of a. Let me try to drop you on the right one. There's kind of that like walking around this corner, but this view, when you guys get back to that point, is kind of how you'll see that corner. Is basically this like higher part of stone in this kind of southeast or southwest part. I guess really, yeah, this map doesn't do a great job of it because I feel like you're kind of walking along this route, just the kind of like edge next to the screen, where again you just see this massive, like crystal clear ice, and behind it there's just this swirling tentacled creature, and parts of the ice just kind of shake occasionally as this whole kind of tunnel is shaking around you.
So just for like so like the where like on the lower part of this map where it gets like darker blue, is that kind of the where the ice starts?
I think for what it's worth, like while I really like the picture from this one, I didn't want to cut off the bottom because I don't like having the frozen ship. I think this has an astral sea in the picture. I am all down to tease Astral Sea right away, but I rather the idea that it's just kind of a solid block of ice and there's not something so freakish just right there. I just love this picture, and then I also have it set up so like I had 11 of them so you could kind of see it if you guys fought it moving, because you're essentially fighting the map with this thing. Like I would have the map kind of change. This is just a cool rendition of it. I like the other one where you're basically just kind of creeping past the wall. So I feel like that like middle layer almost just kind of works for that's like the initial path. The rest of it is if you kind of like go forward to it. I don't know if you guys remember, but I blocked off this whole area last week because I think it's just extra confusing.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, because I don't remember seeing the ship on the other map.
Yeah, so like last week I blocked it off kind of right below you guys to make it again like the look where it's basically like this thing is just in front of you and you can approach it closer to go into like some sort of, I think Felixis was looking to investigate it a little bit closer. You could have gone forward to attack it, but in general, yeah, I was trying to block off the ship, and the idea that this perspective to me almost tells me that there's like 3 different levels to this map, which looks great. I think it's part of why it's so beautiful.
Right.
It is nice.
Sorry, go ahead, Rashad.
I'm saying it is nice. Hey, that was it.
And that's part of why like I didn't want to cut off his actual name, because mostly when I do run people stuff, like I try to have its name there, so if anybody was actually watching, I can see who it was. But yeah, if you guys are gonna squeeze past that thing again, it's gonna be kind of same situation where you're just going to be making, I believe, wisdom throws as you kind of round that area, and you're like 30 or 50, what is it, 20 meters is about 50 feet. Yeah, I'd say about like 50 feet or so away from this wall that you can just kind of see this like writhing darkness behind. Um, and then I'll get those saves from you.
Yeah, Brannick is kind of doing his best to like not look at it, but it's like he almost like can't help himself.
Could you imagine being somewhere with that has a lot of ice and you're just exploring it, and you turn around and you see some shit like this just frozen in the ice?
Yeah, it's like as bad as like Oral was. Like Oral is at least like somewhat, you know, familiar looking. This is just like completely utterly alien.
Can I get the save from Velixis as well as Fen, please? That was perfect. Velixis failed it before, and I just kind of skipped over it. Everybody, you are going to be walking by this little corner, and as you kind of nearby, you all just kind of like lock for what feels like a second as you see this like green jade glowing eye. It's just like a single kind of slit of darkness, and it's just kind of flowing into this. And you're just gonna kind of like see this eye for a moment before the glass of this ice kind of goes dark again, and you can't see anything else. But you guys can kind of like squeeze right by this area here. Kind of looking around the corner, it just seems to kind of open up to the south of you all. A little bit wider cavern than before. It's about 20 or 30 feet wide at any given point. There's still like ice and stalactites, stalagmites, but it's still kind of a lower 20-foot or so ceiling as you're kind of walking through this area. And you're just going to kind of come up to a point where it turns a little bit to the right, and you'll see a way open ahead. The light kind of goes off kind of into a distance from there. You can't see how far. And then a tiny little corridor, which is effectively, again, just kind of normal 10 or so feet wide and 15 or so feet tall kind of corridor. It's like heading off to the south.
Yeah, Brannick kind of he'll give like a little almost like inward shudder as he kind of passes by. This thing has that kind of image of the eye. Um, but yeah, he'll be almost like moving less cautiously, moving more quickly, trying to get past it. I think he'll start towards to the south. There seemed to be a corridor continuing.
Yeah, kind of upside did reveal a little bit too little. It kind of continues off to the south, opens up a little bit to your right, which is effectively the west on this screen mechanically. And then to the south of you, it like shrinks into a smaller corridor. So there's kind of south or turn right.
Yeah, I think Brannick will start south unless Fen or Velixis indicate another direction they want to go.
But Lexus was thinking south as well.
Works for fun.
Let me have all of you roll a d6 here. All right. So, Brannick, as you're kind of like heading through, you start to like not really like shrink yourself down, but you have to go back to kind of this crawling feeling where you're still you're not squeezing, but it feels still claustrophobic. There's hundreds of feet of ice up above you, and you're kind of like walking into this area. You can see it opens up pretty quickly to the right and to the left. When you go to the right, you can see that opens up a little bit more, and you can kind of see things like small little stuff just kind of scattered about. It's really hard to make any sense of it. It's just kind of like a mess of shapes that the light is just barely showing you.
Yeah, despite a voice kind of in the back of his head being like, "Don't," he's going to unable to kind of keep his curiosity. He's going to start moving in that direction towards where he seems
So it's
like
like
kind of
all
the
of the little stuff.
yep.
So as you start to walk in, Rashad glowing the light behind you, my bad, Felixus glowing the light behind you, kind of moving inside, you're going to just start to scan this area, seeing that there is just a bunch of refuse in this place. It's like a modern day garbage dump. And you're just kind of looking into this in absolute bafflement. The other two, as you all approach this, each of you are just going to see a moment where your entire vision is going to just flow with this bright green eye, as everything in front of you is just going to be a formless, like vertical slit, like a snake's eye, kind of peeping towards you, and it is your whole view is just covered in this bright green. And for just a flash, you're staring at it, and for a flash, you can see everything normal ahead of you again. But Brennick, were you prepared to walk in and await this feeling? You just step in and see trash.
Yeah, so I think Brannick, kind of seeing this,
Oh,
he's
my
gonna
bad. I
almost.
didn't switch you guys over to this map. My
I was almost gonna ask. Yeah, are we on a different map now?
Yeah, definitely like confused myself there, like showing different things. Yeah, so that's like the point right before that is when you're kind of stepping in. But this basically gives you, they're going to see that while you kind of walk in to see that like bean shaped room kind of thing.
Yeah, so he's almost gonna he's gonna move to kind of like with his hand sift through just a couple of these things and wondering. First thought is like, whose detritus is this? How long has it been here? Is it new, recent?
Make a intelligence check here. Um, can add your proficiency. It's kind of just like reading over the information. Is it that 6 right there?
Yep.
But proficiency would take that up to a 9.
Uh, yes.
Um, so I think you can see in kind of a moment of rushing through some of these things that there's just kind of trash from a bunch of different places. And I think for what it's worth, let's say that you very quickly spot one piece that somehow identifies um, maybe going to see a circus show at the Grand Coliseum in Waterdeep. And then you've got another piece of trash that references the Emperor's parade down Market Street uh, in the um, in the market ward of Tolis, City by the Sea. and you see this like massive like black spire like on that end. And then you see like another piece that speaks of a tiny town off in like the southeast, and it has a very weird name that kind of rings for the same way you speak Jinbao with a little bit of a different kind of feel. You've seen some of his language. This is another location from across the world. And you can kind of see that none of this stuff like belongs here. It's a lot of it is just as much broken trash as finding like pieces of paper that might be, those would be like tax documents and things, but just random enough things to kind of pick up that these things are from multiple places.
Yeah, so Brannick is like to himself as he's kind of like sifting. So I'll get here. He's like almost lifting his head and kind of looking around the room, not really sure before he kind of looks towards Fen and Velixis.
Roll d6s, all three of you. There we go. We got a 1, another 1. Each of you just take 4 bludgeoning damage. There's just going to be like a piece of trash that kind of like you're standing right next to each other, can fall on top of you. Just like something like a little bit of wood is going to form and kind of fall out of the ice, just like the snow was falling in that room above you. And it's just going to kind of slam down into the two of you. Each of you will take 4 bludgeoning damage as this just kind of like falls out of the ice. It's just another spot where the weave is like torn and something odd is kind of affecting this area.
Oh, well, she kind of rubs her head like that hurt. Kind of looks up like, what in the world? This this place is just a mess. Like, you got snow in one area, falling in one area, you got trash in this one. What's next? Wait, someone is not doing their job. We're just keeping our weed, keeping this magical weave intact. This is ridiculous.
Brannick gives out like a grunt of pain as the piece of wood, and he quickly kind of looking up, kind of where it came from. He's gonna kind of back away from. Not sure, like, yeah, something like it's coming from somewhere. Not sure how much of the and the trash is kind of spread all around, which suggests it's stuff could be coming from anywhere above them. But yeah, he's like to Velixis, he's saying like perhaps the Netheril they tore it and something tore it.
You definitely have to check that and try to get see if there's a way to fix it. Um, but Alexis, just out of curiosity, she kind of sifts through all the trash in the room for anything for any valuables. Mainly, of course, like maybe like jewelry or anything. She just checks to see if anything like that ended up here.
What kind of time frame are you investing in this?
Uh, about a minute.
I think I heard you say 10 minutes.
You did.
All right. Yeah. So when he starts to kind of sift through here, are you guys just kind of hanging around while he watches? Are you going to do something else? What's everybody thinking as Velixis starts to search through this little area?
If Brannick doesn't want to get hit by any more falling junk, he's gonna back out into the corridor a little bit.
Any thoughts from Fen?
Fen is going to join her in sifting.
Gotcha. So let me get investigations from the two of you, and then follow that with a D6 from the two of you as well, please.
Ow.
Alrighty. So, good news, bad news. Do you guys want the good news first, or you want the bad news first?
Take the bad news.
I did not mean to hit it twice.
Oh, wait. Your one wasn't even the roll of a D6. I still need you to roll a D6 then. Don't roll a 1. Alright. So, while kind of like looking through everything, it's going to go pretty well for Velixis, where pretty quickly here you're going to identify that this is trash. Everything here is trash. There's nothing that looks remotely valuable unless you want to tell me some sort of trash that Velixis finds valuable, and that trash can be what you find. But in the long run, you're looking through trash here. The good news was going to be that you look up and recognize that you're sifting through a pile of trash before anybody gets hit. But while you like think this thought, Fen is going to get hit over the head by just like a bag of kind of like a rucksack, and you're gonna see like just the sack like, oh sweet, that's soft, and you're gonna hear kind of like the ding of a little pan. You're gonna take 1 bludgeoning damage as like this rucksack and apparently some sort of metal inside dings off of your head. But yeah, you're sifting through a pile of trash. Doesn't take 10 minutes, but you guys do get out of there before you notice that there's pretty much a constant flow of every once in a while, just something is going to pop up and fall to the ground in that room. If you all start to investigate the other small corridor that heads off to the right, Brannick is kind of there. If Alexis were to step back, the light would kind of start to scatter off to your left as this tunnel kind of zigzags.
Yeah, Brannick wouldn't have said anything at first, but once the kind of rucksack came and hit Fen, he'd be like, leave it. And he'd be ready to continue exploring this other side passage here.
Let me have a perception check. I guess realistically, let me have a dexterity check from Velixis and then a perception check from Brannick. Because Velixis is carrying the light. I keep forgetting. Yeah, so you're gonna kind of see this hall like zig to the left, turns to the right, kind of like turns again about another 10 feet down, and it kind of gets to its narrowest as it turns left. But you gotta crawl up a little bit before you see that the space kind of opens. And by the time you see that is kind of the same time that you're like immediately going to hide, you kind of got enough of a sight to see that you just kind of have an open space ahead of you. You just have to crawl down real tight to push through, and then you should be able to see what seemed like just kind of a room. Seemed pretty empty. Um, kind of a almost large, kind of central stalagmite kind of reaching up off the ground, just kind of central in the room as it opens up ahead of you.
Yeah, so as it gets like narrow in spots, Brannick is going to kind of like try and turn back towards Felixis and ask if he can hold the um not sure what object got lit up, but if it's something that can be kind of carried, he would, just in case it gets
I feel like at some point it was a piece of trash. I don't even remember what got picked up and cast light on.
like one of those pieces
I
of
don't.
cartilage or something, or a rock or something. Yeah.
I feel like I gave you the Chardolin one back, and I feel like somebody else asked her for it. It might even be like a torch, like the husk of a torch.
I'm not even sure, but yeah, Melissa's hands it to Brandy and lets him continue to carry it.
Yeah,
So
so
going through with a little bit more like concerted effort to shine the light into the room, you'll kind of find yourself squeezing up to that little hole where it kind of like turns a little bit, kind of forces you to like manipulate your body one way, and then you can kind of squeeze through, which kind of like gets you back straight. And this time with the light actually in and in front of you, you can see that it's not like a stalagmite that's ahead of you. There's like a ornate chest that just kind of sits in the center of this room of ice, and it's just kind of sitting there.
Melissa's dashes for the chest.
And what are you doing?
Old habits die hard. She immediately tries to open the chest.
Brannick is like belatedly being like, Felixis, wait.
She stops just before opening it. What? It's a chest.
Let me have the two of you roll initiative. You're moving faster than Invlixis. Do you have the fortitude right now to stop yourself? What are you thinking? Are you stopped like right at the chest? Or did you get to the chest?
I'm not sure. I feel like I need to roll for that.
So I already put you to the one. You're faster than him, like by initiative. Roll a dexterity saving throw. You can kind of tell yourself the DC. Do you feel that's good enough that you were able to stop yourself?
Yeah, I feel like that's good enough.
So Felixis, kind of running right below your legs, charges into the room ahead of you. She kind of twists around to look back at you, Brennick.
Yeah, Brannick is just going to kind of breathe out, like let out a breath that didn't realize he was holding as Felixis kind of scampered by him, and he's going to just kind of crawl in, through and like to Felixis would be trapped. I don't know, just need to be cautious.
Alright. Very well. She kind of looks around. Um, for something, she kind of like looks for like maybe something on the ground, maybe like a broken off piece of ice, long piece of ice, and to see if she can pick it up and basically poke the chest with to make sure it's not a trap.
Gotcha. So there's essentially icicles like growing up from the ground, stalactites, stalagmites, growing from the ceiling. You've got the option to kind of grab everything, pull at it, and go to poke at it.
Yep, that's what she does. Then she pokes at the chest to make sure it's not a trap, not dangerous.
Ben, would you mind rolling initiative, sir? So Brennick, after like saying wait, and kind of convincing Valixis not to mess with this trap at all, or this box, for fear that it is trapped, you're going to see as Valixis kind of just looks close as icicle, just kind of breaks it off in one motion, like reaches out to stab at this thing. And as she kind of like stabs out with this like pointy bit of the icicle, you're going to see as this chest kind of gets like reflected back, almost avoiding the tip of this icicle, and the top of the chest just kind of like reaches out like it's made of like this gooey molasses, and it starts to form around Valixis's head, and it's just going to kind of attach to her, kind of like silly putty, just kind of reaching out onto you. um and we are going to start with should hit you with a 22 there. Going to kind of slam into you with 11 points of bludgeoning damage, and you're going to start to feel as your head feels hot, and you're going to take 6 points of acid damage as there's kind of a sizzling coming from above your hood. And then let's see. Yeah, I think it's going to do that again. It's like another kind of like mass is going to like reach out for you. 14 to hit. I think that still hits you.
Okay, so 11 bludgeoning, 6 poison, and then another 6.
There's going to be another 6 poisoning, and that's another 14 bludgeoning. And then it is going to try to pull you into just like a massive like open section, kind of where you were poking the icicle at. It's just going to kind of open, and these two like large globs of it are slowly starting to like push you towards this opening, and you can see as its belly, like as this creature's like outside, it's just kind of forming around you, um in the process of basically making a belly. It's just going to start to exist around you, but it is going to reach out. That is going to bite down onto you, and it's going to deal another 12 piercing and 7 more acid damage.
Yeah, that put her unconscious like immediately. That was a chunk of health. So she is unconscious.
Valixis is currently inside of this creature, and yeah, I don't think you guys are going to actually be seeing anything kind of from that, but you guys can effectively understand Valixis is inside of this creature at present. It is going to start from what is that, 15? Valixis, what is your dexterity? You're over a +1. So it would be right before Brennick. It's going to start with you, Brennick. That's actually an ideal position.
Anybody got a serious case of anybody else having a serious case of deja vu?
Yeah, so Brannick is like almost like as Valixis is holding out, going out to poke, is like, not what I meant, but doesn't get it out before this thing kind of springs to life. And he's gonna give a shout as it starts going after Velixis. Yeah, I think he's going to instinctively kind of like start moving. He's gonna be shouting back towards Fen, like Fen, help! And I think he is going to just instinctively shoot a firebolt at the thing.
Yeah, as it's kind of like molding around and whatnot, you are able to kind of like fling this around, and as its body just kind of like oscillates and flows, find that perfect spot where you smack into a position. You hear like that deep sizzle. Any other movement from Brennick? Otherwise, it's going to Fen.
Yeah, his shout to Fen is pretty panicky. But for now, yeah, Brannick's just kind of backing himself into this corner here.
Yeah, there's no reason for this to have been like silent at all. Like Velixis could have easily kind of like been screaming as this thing kind of like reaches out to consume her. I don't expect it to be like a quiet thing.
All right, Fen will move in and attempt to attack. Going to add Death Strike to that.
Gotcha. Solid strike with the sword. The death strike is increased damage for you. Does that apply for everyone else? Does it do something else for them?
No, just for me.
Gotcha.
So that would be
All right.
10
So total of 10. Solid strike with that cut. You like cut into this mass. It's definitely a weird level of like you're cutting kind of like silly putty. The form looks almost like this kind of like stone, but like where it stretches, it's almost like oil. It's very weird to look at because it's just kind of globs of darkness in this room right now.
And I think Fen is a little worried about touching it, so he is going to keep attacking with the longsword.
Gotcha.
Big old swing and a miss, and I'll follow up with one unarmed strike. And that will end my turn.
Yeah, that's kind of weird because it is anything that touches it, it adheres to. Oh wait, no, that is object form. Once it starts to turn back, though, yeah, yeah. So you're good. You would be able to kind of pull your sword away and kind of feel that at least for the first two, and then with that second strike, maybe you're still like pulling it, not like fully committing to these strikes, but you are each time able to kind of like get your sword away as well as your hands and or feet with those last two attacks there. It would go to. I think right now you guys just kind of have like a little bit of noise being made from Valine. Um, I don't see a special reason. She probably wouldn't necessarily act. So she's got to squeeze through. She will be slow. but theoretically can kind of get to here. And that would take us to a Felixus death saving throw. If you can switch over to Whisper, I need you to roll a die. If you reduce your hit points in D&D Beyond, you should be able to see the death saving throw. Just make sure to switch to Whisper in Beyond 20. If you just roll a D20 in D&D Beyond, or D&D, in roll 20.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah, just change Beyond 20 to Whisper, and then send one.
Oh God, I thought it was on. Oh damn, my bad. Cause I had it on.
Yeah, it needs to be between the two of us.
Just set it to whisper.
Yes.
Um, dude, where's the? You know what? I'm gonna have to do the D20 in the thing because I don't see the whisper thing over here.
That's like in Beyond 20, in like the app that's like installed in your browser versus in either of those systems. Roll 20 is the easiest. If you just switch that to press the GM button and then press the D20, that gets it rolled right away. Bam. So on its turn here, we are going to have it. I think it's still a solid thirds. So 3 and 6 are Velixis. Or no, I guess it's 5 and 6 are Velixis, divide by 2. So that will be attack on Fen, attack on Velixis. So Velixis, you're pretty much going to lose. Yeah, 21 to hit you. You'll lose 2 death saving throws as it crits on you. And then is going to reach out and attack Fen, as well as that's the same one, 2 on Fen. So each of those, one of them will hit with like a 26 there. It's gonna try to just like stick to you with the 6 damage bludgeoning as this like mass just kind of sticks to you, and then you're gonna start to feel your flesh kind of heating up as it's kind of like extruding acid onto your flesh, and you can kind of feel that like heat seeping into your bones. That would take us to Brennick.
Yeah, Brannick is.
Wait, how much acid damage did I take?
I think it's that 5 there.
So it was 11 total.
Yes, 6 bludgeoning. Yep, 11 total.
Okay, sorry.
Brannick is. Doesn't have too much left. He is going to fire another firebolt at it. Seeing this thing doesn't, it's kind of not too mobile. Never mind. No, he'll fire a firebolt.
That's another solid hit there, doing another 11. Any other movement from you? Otherwise, it's going to go to Fen again.
Yeah, he's looking back towards the kind of the passageway, but otherwise, pretty much staying still. I feel a little trapped here for the moment.
What are you thinking there, Fen? What would you like to do?
So Fen is going to pick up the attack again with the longsword.
Yeah, first attack almost just gets like kind of caught up in it, like putty. You're like trying to stab into this thing that's just not even like resisting it at all. Um, the second attack, you're able to kind of just like sink your fist in and get some good hits with. Yeah, all three of those are going to sink in nice as you kind of like move to manipulating this thing's key and start to punch into it. Another 29. You're gonna start to see points where like the globs of this like dark black green are just like starting to like fall to the ground, and you can see that they're still like moving and they're like trying to flow back to the center thing, but it's definitely showing signs that like the magic is separating from it, kind of.
And that'll be end of turn. Actually, I'm going to move in a little bit to give Valine some room.
Yeah, I think she'll be able to move into the position where she's just kind of like torso inside of this area. As far as things go, you guys think she's going to notice that Valixis is not currently visible? Do you guys think she's just kind of slinging a spell to help? What are you guys thinking here? Like, how big is she about to go? She could hit all of you with something that's bigger than a fireball.
I'm not sure. I mean, she's probably been focusing more on like squeezing through, so I'm not sure she would have too much. Like, she knows something's going wrong, but I don't think we.
I would agree.
Uh,
Cantrip is probably. What are you thinking there, Rashad?
I don't think she would realize that Alexis is inside the mimic because one, she didn't see it, and two, I don't think she would think about it because I don't think she wasn't around the first time Alexis got eaten by a mimic. Either was she? No, she
I
wasn't.
don't remember in particular
No,
when
she
the
wasn't.
last time.
Yeah, she wasn't around, so I don't think she would think that about Alexis being inside the mimic.
Gotcha. I don't have the same stats on this one because I wrote them down with the other one, but I do remember Valine is pretty roughed up. She is going to kind of come around this corner. Um, and I think she's actually going to kind of like start to form those arms. And you'll see as her expression kind of changes, and she's going to reach out and start to reach her hand for this kind of glob of black that's kind of like separated from the creature, but like reaching back towards its base. And it's just kind of like rolling over, like kind of like a pie crust. And it's like kind of like trying to make its way. And she like reaches her hand down into it. um, yeah, this thing's just gonna kind of like flow, and as she kind of like reaches down, you'll see like a wisp of like purple smoke kind of rise from this thing, and that little bit is just gonna stop moving as like this wisp of smoke kind of rises up, and you'll see kind of a look of disappointment on her face. Valixis, inside, roll a 20. You need a d20 roll here. Make sure it's still set on whisper, please. A non-whispered roll will not count. And then we are going to go to the mimic again. And it's same roll now, a d8, where Valixis is 7 and 8. And it's going for 3 of these to see who is reaching out towards. So the attack on Valixis at advantage It is going to hit and kill Velixis as you are digested inside of this creature. And then the other two are going to reach out at Fen and then Valine. Hitting both of them, Fen is going to take 15 bludgeoning and 10 poison. As just another glob of this kind of like seeps over onto you, slamming down its weight, and you can just feel as the surface kind of like burns away at your flesh. Valine is going to take 1621. I have to look at her other stats because she's definitely like in the high 20s here. Yeah, Valine will be severely bloodied. She is mortally wounded right now. So is Florinda still your backup? No, Galeria is. Do you still have that full kind of character sheet under a ally right now? All right, she does not have a character sheet. Do you remember what kind of character when you last thought of Galeria? What was she?
Oh yeah. She should have a character sheet.
You might have one on D&D Beyond, but I don't have one for her inside of Roll20 right now. She's just a blank one. I never created an NPC sheet for her. Do you remember the class that you were going for? Was it like another mage, sorcerer, a wizard, like a bard?
1 second, I have it. Give me a moment.
Was Dorian the bard? I feel like maybe Galeria was a fighter.
Yeah, Dorian was a bard. I think that was my backup, right?
Yeah, I've got Dorian and Galeria. We never actually created one for Fen yet. But this is kind of exactly where those backups jump in. Like, we're not going to skip Velixis here. You're just going to jump in as Galeria. And we'll get a full character sheet created for you for next week. But we've got like 20 minutes left for tonight.
Oh, wait, no, is Dorian still...
Okay, she's a that is a level 6 cleric and a level 2 paladin.
Gotcha. For right now, though, as just a sidekick, she's just a cleric. That's what I mean. Like, these characters are super basic. Next week, she'll turn into a real character that you can create where she's multi-classed. But for right now, we're just playing with the NPC that is effectively the cleric. What that character has is, I think it is basically something she can cast a spell that gives the help action to somebody else. And then she ends up having two kind of higher order spells that are your like expendables, which again, in the long run, we're going to have you coming in as a new character. It's probably perfectly fine that you just kind of come in with the idea that the shit she has, like for a moment, you can expend. But I'll have to still kind of grab her. But her main ability is to give somebody advantage effectively with that help thing.
Okay.
But what are we looking at here? You would still come in as Velixis. So I think it would just be... Yeah, we just passed your turn. So it's going to go to Brennick before we bring in you while I'm still looking for that sheet for you.
Okay, so Belixis is effectively dead now, huh?
Velixis is 100% dead. There is effectively resurrection is the only thing, and it's going to be a long-term resurrection because you're looking to save somebody who basically died within the last year.
Yeah, he's just continuing to pepper this thing kind of desperately with fire bolts.
Gotcha. Slinging another firebolt in it. That one's gonna hit. Another little bit of damage. Uh, it would go to Fen from you. 3 or 4 attacks. What would you like to send out at this time?
I'm gonna do the 4 attacks again, but I'll start out with the sword. I'm gonna spend a key to add Death Strike to that.
Alrighty. Let's see. I think the first one's hitting there, second one, and the third will miss. So you've got 12, 24, 34. Let's see. Kind of like slamming into this creature as you're like slashing into it and then just starting to just beat it with like that same hand as well as like kicks. You're just kind of coming across this thing and seeing more and more of this black ichor kind of like splash around until eventually that thing is going to just kind of like cease to move, and you're going to see like the last few globs kind of like sinking away from each of you and kind of falling to the ground, where eventually you are going to see the body of Velixis within, and this creature is kind of like seeping from around it. But it's still kind of like coated in this black ichor in a way that you all are not. As far as that cleric goes, what is your um, what is it? It's not a school.
Divine
Domain.
Yeah, your domain. What do you have in mind for them?
I believe I went to War Domain. That being said, though, I mean, actually, yeah, with the War Domain, she can't get the Resurrection spell, can she?
They can all get it.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Like all clerics, part of why clerics are awesome is that all clerics get all cleric spells. There's just some extra spells that you get based on your domain, and then there's abilities that are modified based on your domain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so
domain
I'm about
spells
to.
are the one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. I was just saying I'm about to send that to you, Rashad, so you can see like basically this is the breakdown of your character right now. As far as things go, it's a pretty straightforward setup. What you'll have, you just have that melee strike, and then two. Actually, realistically, I think you would have all 3 of these spells. You'll see in a second here. But back to you there, Justin. What were you thinking?
No, I would just with the domain spells, that just means like they're always prepared, right? Like they don't count against the number you can prepare each day.
That's correct. Like one of the things about the life cleric is the domain spells that it gets are the spells that any cleric wants to have prepared. So when you think about what spells you are going to prepare, you always have like a big range of what you can prepare because the ones you really want are already ready, but they don't get anything new. Every other like domain gets something fresh, and that makes them special, but you still want those spells that like the life cleric gets. That is like the simplest breakdown on clerics. But effectively, I think this should send it to you. No, that was still in my other thing. 1 second. Bam, there we go. So that was after Fen back in on Valine. Yeah, the thing's dying, so you guys have it. But yeah, I think we can actually probably cut it here. That nothing else kind of like super deadly happened in that moment. Give you more time to kind of think about things here. Whether you have thoughts on continuing forward with that character, or if you wanted to bring somebody else in. Like, I'd like to have these backup characters so they're an option, but in the long run, like it's usually best to try to take breaks. It's just because it's at the end. This is like a weird time.
All right, so what Abdullah does like basically pick up Alexa's body and her items and everything. That private person, what she does.
Brannick will kind of just be kind of shaking his head, watching as this happens, and kind of like looking towards like the dropped icicle that Alexis had used to poke it, and just it's being quiet, just kind of.
That habit. She has a habit of opening chests every time she sees one. Just open it every chest she sees.
That's how she would have wanted to go, right?
Eaten by her Atlantis. I don't think so. I don't think that's not sure what they go at all.
I feel like mimics are one of those things you can never hear about, or you can fully believe that you should never touch anything. But I don't think any character in World would ever be fully understanding of it. But I feel like once you have it done once, you'd probably be inclined towards the just stop touching things.
I was contemplating. She was contemplating that too. She was like, you know what? If I'm making out of here, from now on, whenever we walk into a room with the chest, I'm just gonna fireball the chest. That was her immediate thought. If I'm making out of this, from now on, whenever we find the chest, I'm fireballing the chest.
Oh, that's where it was. It was in the brothers, the dark dwarves in their castle.
Yeah, the Duergar fortress. Yeah, the chest that was like on the bed or at the side of the bed. Yep, in like the
I'm
otherwise
not.
empty room, right?
Yep. I'm not inclined to throw mimics into places that I make. I feel like they're a very low down and kind of dirty thing to throw into places. They are often good for a kill, and it is one of the things that I think goes kind of underrepresented with how powerful they are. But I also think that makes them one of the best things in the game. So when they are inside of modules, I tend not to mess with them. And I definitely think that's one of those things where there's like constantly that fear of like what treasure really means in any dungeon. It's just never really knowing like what is what.
And I don't know what mimics eat, but like if they're basically like they'll eat anything, then it probably makes sense that there'd be one hanging out right near this refuse pit.
See, I almost think of mimics as kind of like a atom, like the smallest part of a thing. Mimics eat what they eat, and it just becomes another part of them that kind of like changes. So it always just breaks stuff down into kind of its most basic layer. This one in particular kind of had some abilities that I didn't really get to, but it's not always like a part of things where it immediately gets to kind of like start sticking onto you. Um, it had like a strong like acid nature to it. I feel like most mimics are not so acidic. That's kind of going off memory though. But yeah, you guys are like in this crazy area. Um, we'll definitely kind of see, like, holler at me to let me know how you're feeling, Rashad. I'm not. I don't think I've killed off one of your characters yet, so I just want to know, like, if you want some sort of big ex machina to kind of bring Valixis back, if you want to do something that costs her something that is important to her, if you're happy with this story. Sometimes I can feel a little bit too casual about it because I play very expendable characters. I'm used to all of my like characters when I get to play as a player being very close to death. It's part of what I enjoy. So let me know if you have any thoughts that like you are stoked with this and you just want to like move forward with the cleric. If you wanted to go for another character now that you're actually at that choice, we can talk about that. But yeah, in the long run, I just want to make sure that you're still happy with things, because there's definitely the possibility you guys are having your minds invaded by this eldritch horror. Part of what I was getting at is by the time you all go to sleep, everybody is going to wake up here in a very different state. Everybody in this party is about to gain a form of long term madness that is never going to go away from your character. This is currently going to be a part of things. And we'll kind of see how that flows. And I think for what it's worth, it's going to start that same way with this character that you're kind of joining with Felixis. In the same way, you guys will all have access still to that like morning, the blessing of the Morning Lord. The cleric will still have that. You're also going to gain the madness. Part of why I like to have these backup characters is so you guys actually think of things a little bit more as like this whole retinue of your like little army of soldiers kind of thing. Some people just move to the forefront.
Okay, okay. Yeah, if there's a chance that she can come back with the Xbox, I do have an idea. And I honestly thought about that too just now.
That's effectively type of thing where you know you're kind of like selling your soul to a warlock deity and actually like multi-classing into warlock maybe rather than the cleric, as you basically will lose like a certain amount of Valixis's free will to something that is like power hungry, willing to loan you power on a short leash. So you can kind of think about that one, but continue with the other thoughts.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking about. Like she might end up having to sell her soul to either like a deity, a demon, or a death god or something. And that's
Gotcha.
actually what I was thinking.
So yeah, we never got into like really fleshing out who your cleric deity was, but I would say on some level here, what I would. I don't ever want to tell you don't play a cleric, but I would be inclined to tell you that either go into a triple um multi-class and using warlock as like this last level, or just kind of like reaffirming and you could do some of your other levels into warlock, but where you would have at least, I guess my kind of point is like at this point if you end up wanting to save Elixis, you can tell me how much of this is going to convert into warlock, which is also kind of a like decision on how much autonomy is Valixis giving up to effectively a dark god, which is going to start to control you at some point. Like this is my warlocks are always very Faustian um, deals. You are making a deal with something that is trying to trick you. It is power now for something that you could not imagine later.
Okay, okay. So I guess it would just be a matter of which deity or with which one who it was I ran into.
That's where I would say on some level, kind of let me know what kind of warlock you would like to splash in on this character. If I were to tell you which direction to go, even though it's an eldritch horror, I don't want to force you down that route. I think that would be a better choice, but we can flavor kind of any of the other ones into that form. Like if you went something like, I don't ever want to suggest to people to go Hexblade, but if you went down a route like Hexblade, it would be the type of thing where like you almost pick up that icicle, and the ice never starts, like never melts away as your like bargain is kind of struck on that, and that icicle becomes your like hexblade longsword. Whatever you want to do with it, you can let me know. But the cost is basically something at some point, where Velixis will know that her bargain is power now, life now, and you're paying a huge cost later. I guess part of why I say that too is to always remind people, like, part of why I say Faustian deal, it's like you're not benefiting from this. It feels like you're benefiting from it, but at some point you're gonna kind of find out like the cost was too much. It's definitely not like, I would like to have a direct messaging to the Spider Queen, and I would like to chat with her every night before I go to bed.
Always got to read the fine print.
Right. My other thought was I could have her body placed somewhere, or just have Galeria take the body with and basically preserve it. That way until she can actually resurrect her, but since she became around the dead kobold. Um, the other thing I thought about as well is that she could probably place her in in an area where hardly no one is, and leave her body there as safekeeping, basically hidden until she can resurrect her as well. So it's like I'm gonna have to think on that and see what's going on. Like, and then it'll be a matter of which one happens first. Does Felix showing her soul first, or does Galeria succeed in resurrecting her first? I guess that would be the point. That'll be the pitch of it. Which one ends up happening first in the long run.
Yep, there's definitely a lot to think about. It's one of those things, especially once you guys get to levels like this where you're kind of big, you're big heroes of this realm. By the time you guys kind of get through some of this, you will be able to affect perhaps more than like when you were much younger you could have ever imagined.